DidikTV KPM.
A very good evening. You are now watching Road to Success SPM 2021 together with me, Sean Stephen, as your host for this evening. Now, the subject for today is very interesting indeed. It is English literature for the topic poetry, more specifically London by William Blake. But before that, I just have to, I got to adjust this one more time because it is important for you to wear your mask appropriately or wear it correctly because it's part of the SOPs. And in line with that, you also have to, or you try to wash your hands as often as possible, use your hand sanitizers, and also to keep a distance of at least 1 meter apart when you are among other people. Now, before I go into the topic, let's have a look at the profile of our teacher for today. And with us today, we have Miss Gladys. Very good evening to you, Miss Gladys.
Good evening, Sean.
And I really like your caption, practice is the best teacher. And that's what we're going to do today. But before that, let's go over to the table and practice some SOPs.
Yeah, sure.
Because first up, we always have to keep a distance of at least 1 meter. And this table is definitely 1 meter in size. So I would like to ask you to use the hand sanitizer. I'll do the same as well. Got to always make sure our hands are clean. There we go. And right now, because we are in a safe distance, we can now open our face mask. Let's go. All right. And for those of you watching at home, always remember, when you open your face mask or when you take off your face mask, please do not put it or drag it underneath your chin. Do not put it on your head or don't put it anywhere else. Please make sure you keep it in a safe place. For example, teacher and I, we are keeping it in a special case. Nice.
That's a nice case.
Thank you. It was a present, actually. All right. Anyway, now you can see our lovely faces. I would like to ask you to introduce yourself once again, Miss Gladys.
Okay, I'm Gladys Francis Joseph, and I'm currently attached to the District Education Department of Bangsa Pudu. I'm a school specialist improvement coach.
Wow. Okay, what do you actually do then?
Okay, basically what I do is that, I coach teachers in the sense that I share ideas on them because we are under transformation now in the education system. We want to make it more student-centered and stuff like that. So I actually go to schools and coach teachers on and share with them ideas, more of sharing. Because I go to so many schools. Some schools may be, carrying out certain things which work and all that. So we share these ideas with them and tell them how to improve on their pedagogy.
All right, great. So we have a pro in the house. Also, one more thing about this, more specifically to the subject at hand. There's, especially for English literature, a lot of people tend to think that it's a difficult subject to take on. Is it really a difficult subject?
I would say it is not a difficult subject. It is this misconception that many have that it is a difficult subject. It is, as I said, practice, is all that you need. Practice is the best teacher. If they practice how to go about writing and how to analyze, basically they are doing forensics of the text. Okay, if they know how to do it and they know the method to do it, then it is one paper which I'm very sure the students will, attest to it. It's a feel-good paper. This is one paper they'll come out and say, wow, everything I learned came out.
Wow, okay. That's your view. How about we take a look at a video of the view of students who will be taking up this paper for their SPM. Let's have a look.
DidikTV KPM.
One of the many challenges that I face, but the one which is most prominent, is probably time management. Because there is 5 essays that needs to be done in 2 hours and 30 minutes, I feel that it is not enough because even the recommended time for English essays in the normal exam, it is 30 minutes per essay, and this does not include editing. I feel that the information that we need to write about is more from memory and is not just something that we can create out of thin air. My main challenge of English literature is finding for study material online, especially for the short stories that we study, because the short stories that we study is written by Malaysian authors or Singaporean authors. Therefore, there's not much information that I can find online.
I think that I need some time to get used to the new format. Besides that, I also think that sometimes I might misinterpret what the question wants because there's just too much information, and sometimes I might just not get what the question wants.
I can say full-heartedly that I enjoy the subject genuinely, and so our teacher has done an excellent job in exposing us to exam questions and what English literature is all about. But due to the COVID-19 pandemic, I think our biggest enemy right now is time. Because even though I know how the questions are going to be like, I've never sat for an exam, and so I think that's going to be a huge problem.
DidikTV KPM.
And there you have it, the views from the students or the candidates that will be taking up this paper for their SPM. But obviously there are some advantages and disadvantages, and hopefully, not advantages and disadvantages, but the challenges that they face when taking up the subject. But hopefully with your guidance today, those challenges can actually be reduced or even eliminated.
Hopefully.
Yes, so before we dive in even deeper into the subject, how about we take a short break and we'll be back to you at Road to Success SPM 2021. Don't go anywhere.
DidikTV KPM.
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Saya Wan Wichazana binti Wazirakamah dari Sekolah SMK PP 92 Putrajaya. Saya di sini ingin mengambil kesempatan ini untuk mengucapkan terima kasih kepada cikgu kerana mendidik kami tanpa jemu. Saya ingin menyampaikan sajak kepada semua cikgu yang bertajuk Guru Sejati. Ketika usia masih mentah, takut risau bersilang gelisah. Dirimu yang mendidik supaya tabah dan bangkit bangun walaupun rebah. Sekali lagi kita bersuah, senyum ikhlas bersama tawa. Terasa hidup penuh bahagia, berjumpa guru yang telah berjasa. Pertemuan itu sungguh berharga, membuat aku kembali dahaga. Mengemis ilmu menepi curiga, kau pula mencurah tanpa bangga. Terima kasih guru sejati, kau akan ku kenang sampai ke mati. Kerana ilmumu suka berbakti, mengingat aku supaya berbakti.
DidikTV KPM.
You are now watching Road to Success SPM 2021 for the subject English Literature. Now, just before we came back to the show, you actually saw a video message in conjunction with the Teachers' Day celebration that happens every year, the 16th of May. And with that, we also have a card, or a bunch of cards that we have here in this basket that's been prepared by our lovely students, that's been sent over to us. So I'm actually going to choose one. It's not really a card, it's more like a wonderful, what we call a book, so to say, a greetings book. So you can see this over here. Very, very nicely done. It actually drew my attention because of its size. So here you can see, I think there's, so there's meanings for each. So T-E-A-C-H-E-R, for example. T is for thoughtful. Okay, I'm not going to read all of it, but I think it's a really nice card. But what's even better, I don't know whether that's grammatically correct, but yeah. What's better is that when you open this up, look at that. The amount of work you actually do, or that's been put into this card. See, Happy Teacher's Day. And then here, thank you, teacher. Wow. Berguru demi ilmu bina generasi baharu. That's actually the theme for this year. Here, terima kasih, cikgu. And hopefully there's a name from the student. There we go. I love you, teacher. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. Okay, that's the name actually. Hugh Jing Eun 5K SJKC Fun U2. Thank you so much for this wonderful card. And of course, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all teachers out there in your dedication and hard work in educating the young minds and even educating me when I was younger. All right, so back to the subject at hand, Road to Success SPM 2021. We have with us also Miss Gladys. Hi, thank you again. And not only just the both of us today, we also have some wonderful guests that are online with us right now. Let's have a look at who they are. Hi! Hi! There we go. We have 6 wonderful students with us. from different schools. So when I mention your name, please introduce yourself, your full name, as well as which school you are from. All right, we're going to start off first with Najwa.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Najwa binti Asbullah. I'm from SMK Kampung Bukit Nanas.
Thank you very much. And next, Christina.
Salam sejahtera. My name is Sharifah Christina and I'm from SMK Sri Hatamas.
Thank you. Next, we have Alia.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Alia binti Muhammad Fadli and I'm from SMK Sri Hatamas.
Thank you. Next, Nadia.
Good evening. My name is Nadia binti Anwar and I'm from SMK Konwi Bukit Nanas.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Tien.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rivashni from SMK Sri Hatamas.
All right, thank you. And last but not least, Nafiza.
Good evening. My name is Sharifah Nafisa Shabdin binti Syed Nofal Shabdin and I'm from SMK Konwi Bukit Nanas.
Wonderful. I have one more question for all of you. Are you ready for our lesson for today? Give me a thumbs up if you are. Yeah? All right. I actually asked for one, but you showed two. That means extra ready. extra ready. All right. So, Miss Gladys, over to you.
Okay. Before I start,
Yes.
before I start, I would like to say that the objectives of this session today.
Yep.
Okay, the objective is not so much to go into the poem that we are going to discuss, but the objective is more to recap because the mid-year exam is coming.
Oh, yes.
Girls, and I know you are very worried about how to go about answering the questions. So we will recap a poem. And then we will look at answering techniques for the poem, okay? And you will get to see where you can improve. Okay, and whether you are already there. So that would be the basic objective of the lesson for today.
Okay.
Okay, for the session here today. Okay, so let me start. As you all know that this year is going to be the first year of the new format.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a new format. Some of you are still not very familiar with the format.
Yes.
Okay, and we listened to those students on the video. There were certain questions which I think this would address, my explanation. Okay, so first we have 3 sections of the paper. You have prose, drama, and poetry. Okay, you have prose, drama, and poetry. And on prose, we have 4 questions. And out of the 4 questions, students are supposed to choose one.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
So not all,
but
just
when you
one.
say not one, it's not like one question. It's one question, yes, but that one question is divided into section A and section B.
Okay.
So you have A and B. So you have an extract-based essay and you have an open essay. And these 2 essays should be completed in 55 minutes. Now, the entire paper is 2.5 hours.
Oh.
Okay, this is just a suggestion. I will explain why I said 55 minutes later.
Okay.
Okay, and now we come to drama. We have 3 questions, and from the 3 questions, you choose one question, but that one is deceiving because you have 2 parts to that one question. It's A and B.
Okay.
So here they'll be answering two essays there, and section C is poetry. Okay, again, choose one, but you have 2 parts, A and B.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there are actually 6 questions which must be answered. 6 parts. 3 questions, but
Yes.
6 parts. So 6 essays to be answered in 2.5 hours.
Oh.
And that's a challenge.
Oh, okay. Yes, I heard
So
the word
yes.
essay, so that's a bit intimidating
Yes,
for me.
that's right.
Yeah.
And the time given is just a suggestion.
Okay.
Okay. The reason why I gave less time for poetry is that they are familiar. You all are familiar with the poems, right? So that's the reason why I give less time, because when the poem comes out, you are quite familiar with it. Unlike for drama and prose, because let's say you take a novel, you have 18 chapters, and out of the 18 chapters, just one extract is going to appear in the exam.
Okay.
So you need to actually think, look at the structure, and you need time for that. So that's the reason why for prose and for drama, I suggest that you use more time.
Yeah.
But again, this is just a suggestion. It depends on how you manage the different genres.
Correct. You never know if you could complete it in 30 minutes.
Yes.
And you have more time for others.
Yes, that's true.
best
Okay,
case
so we
scenario.
shall go on.
Yeah.
Okay, now regarding this, there are poems, 10 poems here, okay, and all these 10 poems must be covered in Form 4 and Form 5.
Okay.
Okay, girls, you know, you are aware of that, right? Okay, it has to be covered in Form 4 and Form 5. Now, before I go on, does anyone have any questions about the format, the 3 parts, and you know, about poetry, prose, and drama? Do you all have any questions, girls?
Yeah, can I reconfirm something?
Yes, sure, Christina.
We don't have to remember the lines of the poems, right?
Oh, no, you don't have to remember. In the old format, yes, you had to memorize the poem, okay?
Oh.
But in the new format, you don't have to because both the poems will be given,
Okay.
okay?
Oh, that's a
so you
relief.
just have to look at what is there and answer based on that.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Christina. That's a good question because I think a lot of students out there who are watching are probably wondering that as well, whether they need to memorize. Okay,
Yes.
so we will go on. So these are the 10 poems. And today we are going to focus on just one poem, that is London by William Blake. Have you read this poem before, Sean?
Honestly, no.
okay.
No, unfortunately, no. I haven't had the opportunity to do so, but
Okay, so
I guess today's lesson will be a great one.
yeah, so you can actually go through the poem with us.
All
Okay,
right.
but as I mentioned, this is going to be a recap, okay, of what we have already done. Okay, before we go into the poem itself, let me go through some tips for poetry, okay, when you are actually reading a poem. Okay, on the first reading, I would suggest that you read and annotate without reference materials. Okay, why? Why am I saying that? Simply because, you know, for the poems that are in the syllabus, girls, you know there are lots of materials out there, right? So if you were to look at those materials and then you look at the poem, you are not going to find your voice. You are going to be looking at other people's ideas and interpreting it, you know, according to their ideas. Okay. As literature students, you should have your own views. And that's the reason why I say that, you know, I've been telling you to actually read and annotate first. And after you have done that, you may refer and then you can compare. Okay,
yeah.
so that's the first part. And underline important words and phrases. You can color code and, you know, like according to how you want to categorize the words and so on. Okay, that's how you have your own style. Next is content, style, and effect. Now, this current format, that is the 2021 format, in order for you to be, you know, to answer the questions well, these 3 aspects are very important. The first one, what is the poem about, is something that even the previous exam questions had. You know, you always talk about the poem. But this is something that is new. How does the poet use language? Okay? So it's not just about what is the poem about. It's not just the meaning of the poem. That's what I said. You are actually doing forensics of the text or the poem. Okay, you are going to identify the language he has used, and then you are going to find out why does he use language in this way, the effect of using that word. Okay, why did he use that particular word? Why did he repeat that word? These are the things you're going to be looking at.
I think that's the reason why you mentioned not to read other materials as well, so that it won't influence the way you think.
Yes.
And, you know, to make sure that you get it as what it is.
Very true, Sean. Okay, and then we go on to the this part here. How does the poet use language and so on? Once you have identified, you need to know the meaning of the poetic devices used. Okay, enough to answer the question. Okay, so this part, you not only know that, you know, the poetic devices, you must be able to explain the effect they have.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So this may be something that you all find challenging, but later I'm going to show you how, you know, being familiar with it will make it less challenging. Okay, let's go on to the last one. Okay, time management. That's the greatest challenge. Okay, and the students did say that, okay? Imagine 6 essays in 2.5 hours.
I can't imagine.
Yes.
I mean, it is a challenge, but it is possible.
Yes, it is a challenge. It's possible.
Yeah.
And how do you make it possible is knowing your text well.
Yes.
And as I said, practice.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are the tips for poetry. Okay. And okay, girls, at this point, do you all have anything you would like to ask in this part, the section for the tips on answering poetry questions? Do you all have any questions?
Teacher?
Yes, Rivashini?
What if we can't remember the poetic device, but we know the effect? What do we do?
Ah, okay. That means during the exam, you know that this is a like let's say for example, it is a thing, but it has been given human qualities, and you know the effect of that, but you've forgotten the word personification. So what are you going to do? Now, Rivashini, it's not so important. Of course, it's good for you to know its personification, but sometimes during exam stress, you may forget.
Yes.
Okay? Not knowing the term at that time, but explaining it, this has been given human qualities, because then it's fine. Okay? As long as you can identify the effect and the word, it's still accepted. Okay, Rivashini? Yes.
Right. Yeah, because even I tend to forget things. Imagine if it's during an exam and you forget it, so that's, I think, quite normal to happen.
Yes,
As long as
that's
you get to
exam
explain
stress,
it's fine.
actually.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so we shall go on. We will start with the first stanza. Okay, let's look at some recap, okay, because you're preparing for your mid-year exam. So let's recap the poem. Okay. What is before we go into the questions based on the words, what is this stanza about? What is the general idea in this stanza, Alia?
This stanza is about the suffering of the poor due to the control of property by the wealthy.
Yes, very good. Okay, so the general idea of this stanza is the suffering of the people. Okay, and what does chartered mean? Okay, what does chartered mean? Who wants to answer this? Anyone?
Me, teacher, can I try?
Okay, sure, Nadia.
Does chartered means the control of land through land ownership by those who has power?
Okay, well done. Yes, it is chartered here, those who are wealthy control. Yes, very good. And okay, now this is what I mentioned. Rivashini, you asked earlier. You don't actually talk about it. You don't have there is a term for it, but let's say you just see it as repetition. Okay? So what is the effect of its repetition? Repetition of the word chartered. Who wants to try?
Me, teacher.
Najwa, okay.
The repetition of the chartered shows the increase in the control as it covers both land and water now. That's why it's chartered thing.
Okay, very good. Okay, it's increasing. It's covering Thames as well. So it's covering land and water. Okay, the next question. We are very quickly recapping. And as we recap, I would like you all to remember this as well, because this is what I talked about, how to go about analyzing language, the forensic part of it. Now, what is the meaning and significance of this image? Marks of weakness, marks of woe. Who would like to try that?
Teacher, can I try?
Yeah, sure, Nafisa.
Blake presents a strong negative visual image of people made weak and sad by living in London because they were suffering.
Okay, good. Okay, he's actually presenting to us an imagery, okay, an image of what the suffering the people are going through. And the final question for this stanza, what is the effect of the repetition of the word mark? You see mark being repeated. You have 3 marks there in one stanza. What is the effect of the repetition? Who would like to try? Yes, Rivashini.
The repetition shows that the damage is permanent.
Yes, the damage is permanent, so it's being repeated. Sean, you're looking at it like you're seeing all this for the very first time. Are you overwhelmed?
It is the first time I'm looking at it, and I know it's English, but I still don't understand.
Okay, so...
But I think it takes time. It takes time to really digest
back to
everything.
Practice, right?
Yes, correct.
Yes,
something that I lack.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay,
yes,
let's go on to the second stanza. Okay, which of man's senses is Blake's focus here? Christina, would you?
Hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sense of hearing.
Yes.
Because he says that cry of every man, voice, and I hear.
Okay, very good. As you can see, everything is presented with an evidence. The evidence is from the text itself. So that evidence part is very important. Okay, so now we go on to the next question on this stanza. What is the effect and significance of every? Who would like to try that? Okay.
Can I try, teacher?
Yeah, sure. Alia?
Does it mean that all the people in London are suffering?
Yes, very good. Everyone is suffering. So the repetition of every. Now, if you notice, stanza 1, there is a lot of repetition. Stanza 2 also has a lot of repetition. Here, Blake uses the technique of repetition to show how prevalent the suffering is. You know, how everyone is suffering. So he's basically using repetition to show that. Very good, girls. I see that y'all are prepared for your exam. Now, another thing you can look at is, look at man, infants. In the middle of the sentence, you won't actually write it in capital letters, but it is written in capital letters. So those of you who are watching, perhaps you can think about why they are written in capital letters in the middle of the sentence. Okay? I shall not ask you that question, Sean, because you are frowning. Okay, now we go on to the next one. Okay, you have the image of mind-forged manacles are here. What does this image suggest about the people of London? Who wants to try?
Teacher, can I try?
Yeah, sure.
Does it mean that their mind is controlled and
yes,
this makes the situation worse?
Yes, very good. When you have control of the mind, it's even worse than control of physical things.
That's true.
Okay, so that's the image he's trying to present here. Okay, so now we'll go on to stanza 3. Okay, what is Blake's focus in this stanza? Okay, Nafisa, can you answer that?
Hello. Blake's focus is on those who are the cause of their suffering.
Very good. Earlier we saw all the people who were suffering.
Yes.
And now we get to see who are the people who are responsible for the suffering. Okay? We get to see that. Now, next is, what is Blake trying to suggest about the church? You see, every blackening church appalls. What is he trying to suggest? Anyone who wants to try?
Can I try?
Yeah, sure, Najwa.
The leaders of the church were also corrupted and did not help.
Yes, very good. At that time, they were also equally corrupted, okay? And the final question, runs in blood down palace walls. Okay, what statement is Blake trying to make with this image, okay? Image of blood on palace walls. Who would like to try this?
Can I?
Yeah, sure, Christina.
He's implying that the monarchy is also responsible for the situation.
Well done. Very good. It's implying the monarchy are also responsible. So you have the church, you have the monarchy. They are all responsible for the suffering of the people.
Yes.
Okay, this was actually during the Industrial Revolution.
The first one, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So we go on to the next stanza. Okay. And this is the final stanza.
Okay.
Now, perhaps we have been looking at words, language and so on. Perhaps you can also look at the rhyme scheme. Okay, this is for you all, those of you who are watching, you can try this. You can also look at the rhyme scheme and comment on the rhyme scheme as well. It's not only words. And then, okay, look at this. Think about the effect of the juxtaposition in this phrase, youthful harlots. Okay, so think of that juxtaposition. Now, what does that mean? Why did Blake put these two words together? Yeah. They're actually contrasting words. Why did he put that together? This is something you can think about in this stanza as well. Now, we go on to the next one. What statement is Blake trying to make with this image? Blast the newborn infant's tear. Okay, who wants to try? There's someone missing there. Okay, who wants to try?
The situation is so bad that even babies can't escape it. When newborns to become victims, the situation is critical.
Yes, okay, but even when babies are affected, okay, it shows how bad the situation is. Thank you, Najwa. And the last question for this stanza, why has Blake used this image of disease? Can I have Alia to answer that?
And before Alia actually answers that, how about we take a short break and we'll be back to you with Road to Success SPM 2021 with Alia's answer. Don't go anywhere.
DidikTV KPM.
Sejahtera. Nama saya S. Arish. Saya dari sekolah SJKT Batangkali. Terima kasih, Cikgu.
Di sini, saya ingin merakamkan sekadar penghargaan dan ucapan jutaan terima kasih kepada semua cikgu kerana telah banyak membantu dan mendidik saya selama ini. Saya bersyukur menjadi salah seorang murid cikgu. Bukan hanya ilmu sahaja yang cikgu berikan, tapi nasihat dan didikan cikgu juga yang membentuk karakter saya ini. Tidak ada yang boleh saya berikan sebagai penghargaan selain ucapan jutaan terima kasih setinggi langit. Terima kasih cikgu, I love you.
DidikTV KPM.
You are now watching Road to Success SPM 2021 for the subject English Literature, Poetry, for the poem London by William Blake, together with me, Sean Stephen, and also Miss Gladys. But before that, just before we return to the show, there was actually a short video. This is in conjunction with Teachers Day. We have been receiving a lot of online submissions for cards, and we're going to actually display one of the e-cards that we have received. Let's have a look at that. A special message to the teachers itself. I'm going to quickly read this. Setiap yang diajar ada harapan, setiap kemarahan ada kasih sayang, setiap teguran ada suatu doa, setiap percakapannya ada sahsiah terbina. Wow. So this is terima kasih cikgu kerana memberi ilmu, pengetahuan dan mendidik saya menjadi orang yang berguna. So that's a special message for their teachers, and of course, again, this is done in conjunction with Teachers Day. So let's go back to our lesson for today for the poem London by William Blake. Over to you, Miss Gladys.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Alia, I think you had a lot of time to think about the answer.
Better hope that answer is right, but so far all the students have been answering
Okay,
perfectly.
Alia.
Yeah.
Why has Blake used this image of disease?
He uses the image of a disease or illness. Blake suggests that it will spread and infect many people, and it's not going to be easy to improve the situation.
Very good, excellent.
Wow.
Okay, so the image of a disease, okay, and you know, it plagues everyone. And we know how fast it spreads. You know, what better time than now? How fast we are in a pandemic, you know, and how fast it's spreading.
Correct.
So basically, Blake is saying that the suffering of the people, the sadness and the suffering of the people was spreading like a disease. Okay, and that's what he's saying in this poem. Okay, now if you look at it, there are lots of words here. Okay, there are lots of words here which I have highlighted. Actually, there are lots of words I could highlight, right? But then I did not highlight all the words and the phrases. Okay, now earlier we talked about the challenge of time management. Why the students find it very difficult to manage their time is they tend to take too much of evidence. And when you have too much of evidence, you need to explain the evidence. And that would take a lot of time. So the idea is, what does the question want and how much should I take from every stanza? You don't have to take everything from the stanza. You just probably pick about 2 from each stanza.
Okay.
And then you use that, you analyze that, you explain, and you answer the question.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So girls,
just take what is needed.
Only what is, actually there will be a lot needed.
Yeah.
but you don't take all.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, why did I say only 40 minutes for 2 questions for poetry? Which means 20 minutes for 1 question like this.
Yeah.
Okay, you would have done it at home. You would have revised, and just like how we are revising now, you know all the meanings of these words and phrases.
Yeah.
So in the exam, it is just a matter of using these evidence and tweaking it to answer the question. So you don't really need as much time as you need for the others, for the prose and drama. That's the reason why you have a shorter time. Girls, do you all agree? I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, yeah, so that's the reason why we have a shorter time. Okay, we talked about doing a question. Now we come to the next part of our session today. That's let's practice. Now this is an exam style question. Okay, it's an exam style question. In London, how does Blake present ideas about sadness and suffering? Okay, so this is the kind of question that will appear for your exam. Okay, with the poem given, and this is the type of question. So how do we go about answering the question? Okay, let's look at this. First is you have to identify the keywords. Okay, what are the keywords? What do you need to focus on? Okay, so here we know it is sadness and suffering for this question. The next one is how. How is it presented? Poetic techniques and language. This poetic techniques and language, we discussed it earlier. Okay, so you are going to use this for your answer. And next is, look at the final stanza. What is the concluding message? Now, in poetry, you find different ways the message is presented. Okay, like Blake, in the final stanza, he actually says that it is a cyclical thing, meaning that the suffering is not going to stop. Yeah. It is going to continue, and that gives you the feeling that how bad it is. There's no end to it. Okay? So his final message is that. Similarly, there will be some poems where there will be development of ideas. Some are narratives. So you have to look at how the poem develops as well. Okay? And then you look at the quotes. Yeah, select the quotations. This is what I meant by don't take too many. Select what is needed. And if you're not very familiar with some of the quotations, never mind. Be familiar with at least 2 or 3 in every stanza so that you can explain it well. Okay? So you should be able to select the quotations and explain the quotations and analyze them as well. Not just a matter of writing out the quotations and say that, okay, this is, I've actually produced the entire poem, I've got the quotations. Yeah. It's not about that. It's about answering the question.
Correct.
Okay? And next, not too many, you may follow the sequence. Now, some of you may find it difficult to take quotations from different parts of the stanzas. And if that is the case, then you just follow the sequence. Okay? But one thing I would like to tell you all is that as far as possible, don't write too many paragraphs. Okay? If let's say you have 4 stanzas, like London has 4 stanzas, so if you are going to have 4 paragraphs for each stanza, so with the introduction and conclusion, you're going to have 6 altogether. Okay, so when you have 4 paragraphs for the stanzas, then you will find that you are repeating.
Oh.
Because you are going according to the stanzas, then there'll be too many paragraphs, and then 20 minutes. Remember, 20 minutes. So your paragraphs are going to be short paragraphs, right?
Yeah.
So we want to avoid that.
Okay. How many paragraphs should we have then?
I mean, it's like including your introduction and conclusion. Yep. 4 to 5 will be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Maximum is, I would say is 5. But again, having said that, these are not like you must do this.
Okay, it's
up to the students.
And it's also depending on the question as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay, this is what I meant. Introduction, 2 or 3 body paragraphs, and conclusion.
Can I have 10 paragraphs? Is that
Why
too much?
would you want to have 10 paragraphs, Sean?
I'm not sure. Just a question.
When you have 10 paragraphs, okay, as I mentioned, it's not going to be developed well.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
because
it's best
the time,
to focus on keeping it precise and straight to the point and having all that points over there.
Yes,
Okay.
and analyzing the points. You see, doesn't mean that you have many paragraphs, your essay is good. You may not actually answer the question.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we go on to the before we go, okay, the next activity. Okay, can I have someone to give me the keywords of this question?
Can I?
Yes, Rivashini.
How, poet, ideas, sadness, and suffering.
Okay, how? Can you repeat that?
Poet.
Poet is Blake here, yes.
Ideas.
Ideas.
Sadness.
Sadness.
And suffering.
Suffering. So this how here will tell you that you have to look at the poetic devices, the language, and all that. And of course, sadness and suffering. This is going to be your focus, sadness and suffering. Okay, so let's look at, okay, this is basically it. Okay, these are the keywords. Now we have got your keywords. How are you going to go about answering the question? Okay, let's look at writing an introduction. Okay, writing an introduction. First, of course, you have to mention the title and the poet. And next will be, what is the poem about generally? Okay, and that's the reason why I asked all those questions as well when we started. Okay, and answer the question. What does Blake say about sadness and suffering? And that is what the question wants you to do.
Yes.
Okay, so this would be an introduction. Okay, now let's look at response A and response B. Okay, Nadia, can you read for us response A?
William Blake was a famous poet who made many poems in which ideas about the betterment of society were presented. In the poem London, we are taken on a journey with him as he walked along the
Streets of London. Okay, I think the internet connection is not so good. Okay, that's response A. Response B. Nafisa, can you read for us response B?
The poem London, written by William Blake, depicts the suffering of the oppressed. Blake mentions who are those he holds responsible for the sad state the people are in. He presents the idea of sadness and suffering with vivid imagery of sight, sound, and diction.
Okay, very good. Which is a better response? Who would like to try that? Which is a better response for an introduction? Is it response A or response B? Who would like to try?
Can I try?
Oh, yes, Nadia.
Is it response B?
Response B. Why? Why do you say it's response B?
Because is well organized. It has thesis statements to the question.
Okay, let's see whether it is response B or not. Thank you, Nadia. Okay, if you look at response A and response B, if you look at this, response A has the first part which I mentioned, poet, and the title of the poem. And then it says, we are taken on a journey with him as he walked along the streets. So it just says that. It doesn't tell you about the ideas.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Whereas when you're looking at response B, you have the poet and then you have what he mentions, what is the message in the poem. Okay. And finally, this is the thesis statement, basically the main idea of the essay. So he presents the idea of sadness and suffering with vivid imagery of sight, sound, and diction. So you are telling, the examiner, or even in your essay, you know that you are going to show how language is going to, how you're going to pick on words and phrases, and then you are going to use them to answer the question on sadness and suffering. You see, this does not appear here.
Yes, correct. It looks like he's just taking a stroll through London.
Yes,
and that's it.
exactly.
He could be enjoying the park, cup of tea.
Exactly,
like
and you must always come back to what is wanted in the question.
Yeah.
Okay, well done. We'll go on to the next one, which is developing a paragraph. Okay, that is introduction, developing a paragraph. What is the stanza about? Usually we call it as topic sentence, okay? Of course, this what is the stanza about, you must relate it to the question as well. Okay, and then you have your quote and your evidence. Okay, for stanza 1, it would be, what does he see? Okay, stanza 2 will be something else. What does he hear? And stanza 3, who are those who are responsible for the state the people are in? So you will have different kinds of things mentioned here. And then examine, explain, and analyze. Here you have your evidence. And then this is where you have to explain and analyze what it means. And when you are explaining and analyzing, again, you have to connect it to sadness and suffering, because that's what is wanted in the question. And finally, this is all in one paragraph, and we are looking at personalization, or you connect it. It's always good to connect to, you see, this was written in the 18th century. Okay, now we are going on into, we are in the 21st century, heading towards the 22nd century. What is, can we connect it? Okay, so this is where the personal part comes in, and this is where I said, don't read other people's opinions, you have your voice, and comes in here. Okay, so this is the organization of a paragraph and how you develop a paragraph for your answer. Okay, girls, are you all okay? Okay, now we go on to this, paragraph 1, and we have response A and response B. Okay, now, Nafisa, okay? I think I'll give you all a few seconds to read both the responses, or maybe one of you can read it for us. Alia, can you read response A for us?
The poem opens with the persona presenting images of people suffering. The word chartered implies control as the lands are owned and controlled by the wealthy. The repetition of chartered shows that the control is growing. It is a huge privilege for the rich, but a restriction for the poor. Blake's use of imagery, marks of weakness, marks of woe, enables the reader to visualize the weak and sad faces of the poor. Repetition of marks shows the impact is almost permanent. Blake's strong negative visual image of people suffering due to the control of the rich evokes sadness in us as we do witness such woes among the poor we see around us. Okay, thank you very much. Now, Nafisa, which would you say is a better response? Is it response A or response B?
I think it's response A.
Why, Nafisa? Why do you say it's response A? Because she read response A?
Pardon?
Okay, never mind. Why do you say it's response A?
This is because it starts with a sentence which actually tells about this stanza. And there are actually words and phrases and poetic techniques that are explained and analyzed. And also the paragraph ends with actually a reference to the question.
Okay, very good. Now, can I have someone to tell me why response B is not a good response? Then we will know whether Nafisa is right or not. Okay?
Can I try?
Okay, Najwa.
Okay. Why response B is not a good response is because the lines have been paraphrased or summarized and there is no analysis. Besides, the poetic device has not been mentioned at all. Besides, it's not a good phrase.
Thank you. Well done. Okay?
Wow.
Okay, that
Excellent.
was really good. Okay.
I couldn't have answered that way. No way.
Okay, so I have color-coded this. Okay, this is like the topic sentence, and these are the evidence in red. Repetition, imagery, and all are the poetic devices. And then this final part is where the connection comes in, connected, your personalization as we see around us. So you can see that there is a flow in the answer. Whereas if you look at response B, yes, evidence is there. No doubt evidence is there. But the student has actually said he's wandering around the streets of London near the Thames. All around him, he sees suffering, as he says. So what the student is doing is just paraphrasing what has been said.
Instead of analyzing.
Yeah, instead of analyzing. So there is a lot of paraphrasing and summarizing in this answer. It's not to say that it's completely wrong, because you see, finally the student does come back and connect to sadness and suffering. Okay, but there's a lot of paraphrasing and summarizing. The literary devices are not identified. Okay? Now, for the exam, you need to identify the literary devices. For example, the repetition of charted shows that the control is growing. Okay?
Yes.
And as we went through these questions earlier, this is what I mean. You already know these things. So when the question comes out, you just use them and then you use the keywords and answer the question. If the question is about power, you use the same words and then you answer the question on power. You say control is growing. That means there are a lot of people who are using their power wrongly.
Yes.
See, using the keywords of the question, but the same evidence, you can actually answer the question.
Wow.
So that makes it easy. Easier than, I won't say easy, easier than the others.
Yes.
And of course, you have to remember to connect the paragraphs. Okay? The suffering he sees is, let's say, paragraph 1. Paragraph 2, you say the poet further develops the idea of suffering. So you're forming a connection between paragraph 1 and paragraph 2.
Yeah.
And then paragraph 3, then you say, however, Blake moves on from describing the sufferers to those who caused it. So your essay there is cohesion in your essay, it flows.
Yes.
It's not like paragraph 1 is there and paragraph 2, they're all separate. No. This is how you answer an essay question. Okay? And then we come to the conclusion of the essay. Summarize what you have said. Connect it to the question again. Summarize these two. You can answer this question and you will be coming up with the conclusion. Do you think that at the end of the poem, Blake offers a solution to the sadness and suffering? Your own thing coming in there.
Yeah.
Okay? And finally, personalize your answers. What are your thoughts and feelings about the ideas presented in the poem? Okay, so the conclusion is mostly about summarizing and you having your voice. Okay, we have come to the conclusion of the essays. And now we have some sentence starters. These are just some sentence starters for you all to use in your essays. Because sometimes you think you want to put the evidence and then say, how do you construct a sentence?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are some examples of sentence starters that you all can use in your essay.
Okay.
Okay, are there any questions?
Yeah, I think we have about 5 more minutes for any questions from any one of you who are online. Unfortunately, for those watching at home, they can probably ask, but we won't be able to hear them. But for those of you online right now, if you have any questions, you can just turn on your mic and ask Miss Gladys your question. Any questions? Okay, while you're thinking about your question, I actually have one question.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about color coding the things, right? Can I bring a color pencil box to the examination and write it in different colors?
Why not? If that makes it easier, there's no
Oh, so I
rule.
can.
There's no rule which says that you cannot bring color pencils into the exam hall. Is there such a
Wow,
rule?
okay,
No,
okay.
of course not.
Yeah, but when you meant color coding, it's more towards for us, for our understanding in
Yes,
terms of highlighting.
you shouldn't be color coding in the exam. That would mean that you did not do enough analysis while you were studying.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that part would be done at home, you know, in class and so on. And when you are in the exam hall, as I said, once you know all those words and phrases and what they mean, all you have to do is use them to answer the question.
Correct, correct.
Okay?
And I believe it's more of not memorizing, it's more towards understanding it, because when you memorize and when you're at the exam and suddenly it hits you and you're like, what did I memorize? And it happened to me a lot of times. So I think it's best if you understand it, you can somehow put it into your own words, and from there, I think things will get better.
Yes,
as they
and
go.
it is like an open book kind of thing. The poem is given to you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's given to you. You don't have to memorize it. So this is where, you know, a true literature student will be able to pick the evidence and explain the evidence.
Yes.
And that is this is where critical thinking comes in.
Yeah.
You know, literature is one subject where, you know, it involves a lot of critical thinking.
Yes.
You don't have to teach it separately, you know, in other subjects. Okay, now it's time for HOTS questions. Let's think of what HOTS questions to ask. It doesn't have to be like that. Literature, the entire subject involves critical thinking.
Oh, all right,
Yeah.
all right. So let me just check with our students online. Do you have any questions so far? Yes, we have Nafisa.
Teacher,
Yes.
will our essay be judged? Will you deduct or mark if we have like grammatical errors and
Okay, there won't be marks deducted for grammatical errors.
Oh.
As long as your meaning comes through, you will not. If present and past tense, they're not going to deduct marks for grammatical errors. Okay. For literature, it is about how you present your ideas, because it's it is about analyzing.
Yes.
So and you will be marked on what you do right.
Okay.
We are not going to go about looking for what you are doing wrongly.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So that's the good thing about literature. We are looking at what you are doing rightly. It's a very positive paper with positive energy.
Okay, all right. Okay, I think we have time for one more question if any of our lovely students would like to ask. Anyone? Okay, maybe I actually have a question. So this means that, I mean, if grammatical errors won't be asked or won't be, like marked in a way. So that means like someone, I always had the perception that if you're good in English, you should take English literature. So that doesn't mean that, okay, if let's say your command of English is not so good, you can actually still pick up English literature. And as long as you answer it like the way you mentioned, as long as you present the points correctly, you get whatever that's needed in the points, you can actually also score for this paper. Is that true?
Yes, very true. In fact, whether it's the old format or the new format, it has always been that, marks are not deducted for grammatical errors. And I've had students, when I was teaching, I've had students who got like A- for English, but they got A+ for literature, English literature.
Okay. Yes.
So that tells you a lot about, and I know these students, they do make grammatical mistakes, particularly in tenses.
Yeah.
But then when, they had that critical level of analyzing, and they are good in that. Because that is actually a skill by itself. Analyzing and so on. So you can't actually penalize the child for the grammatical mistakes.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah.
All right. So before we end, do you have any last tips or wishes or any last words you'd like to say, especially for those who are watching at home or even for those of you who are online right now?
Okay, those of you who are sitting for SPM this year, okay, some of you may feel that, like last year it was the pandemic, most of the classes were online, and suddenly, you come back to school now and you have to sit for this paper, and you feel that you don't really need this paper. You want to focus on your physics, chemistry, and bio or ed maths. Why should I be spending time with English literature? Let me tell you, English literature will enhance you as a person. And in whatever kind of occupation you take up next time, it will definitely help you, because it is about analyzing people, what you say, choosing the right words to say, what you want to say, so that it also helps you to communicate with people better. Yeah. And one last word is that, as I mentioned earlier, this is definitely the paper which, when you are coming out of the exam hall, you will say, this is a feel-good paper, I have done well, I've got my A. Because everything that you study, you will find that it will definitely come out in the exam.
Wow, those are really, really wonderful words and also kind words of advice. Even now, I'm really motivated to actually take up this paper, but I'm not sitting for SPM, unfortunately. But then again, thank you so much again, Miss Gladys, for all the sharing that you gave, including the tips and also how to answer and to get as much points and marks as we can. And also special thanks to our students online. We have Najwa, Christina, Alia, Nadia, Nafiza, and also Rivashini. Thank you so much for your participation. And for those of you watching at home, hopefully you have benefited from our lesson for today. And do make sure to always tune in to Road to Success SPM 2021 for more educational shows and also how you can score your best for your SPM papers. And we will see you in our next episode at Road to Success SPM 2021. Have a wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye. See you again.
DidikTV KPM.
Hi everyone, I'm Muni. I'm Nadia's mom. I encourage Nadia to do literature because I believe it doesn't only enhance your language but also instills very good values. She faced some challenges like understanding the text, answering techniques, and so on. But anyway, with the help of the teachers and the guidance of Gladys, she managed to overcome these challenges. So Nadia, I wish you all the best Good luck for your exam. You can do it.